Hello, so what a week we had. Google dropped Gemini 3, Nano Banana Pro and an agentic IDE anti-gravity. And OpenAI just casually dropped GPT 5.1 Codex Max. Oh wait, you've never heard of the last one? Okay, never mind. I guess we all know that the focus was clearly on Google's achievements this week, but the cycle is always the same. Minutes after the release, there they are. The Twitter threads, the YouTube videos with the exaggerated faces, people just reading off the system card to grab some cheap views. And this cycle always repeats itself every single time a new big player releases something new. New models beat the benchmark, AGI confirmed. On the other hand, you have people screaming, oh, all these models are still total garbage, so maybe it's my fault for reading too much Reddit. Let's first have a look at all these benchmarks. Yes, we need some benchmarks to evaluate the new models, but the way people go crazy is wild. Do you really need to worry which model is better at humanity's last exam, when all you want to know is whether it's a good idea to eat soup with a straw? Even as someone who develops a lot in Python, I really don't care that much about the leaderboards. I tried Gemini 3 myself and checked for the things that actually matter. So does it make stuff up? How well does it explain concepts? How well does it follow my instructions? And very important, does the model finally dare to contradict me? There is nothing worse than a yes man bot that looks at my nonsense code and says, oh, you're absolutely right, excellent approach, when it clearly doesn't run. So maybe in the end, I'll just use OpenAI models for one task and Gemini 3 for others, and that's totally fine. Also, the obsession with judging models, how well they follow a prompt like create a landing page for me or create a game for me, is ridiculous. So experienced software engineers who are also good prompt engineers will be able to build something completely different with LLMs than people who have no clue about the subject at all. For complex tasks, the cutting edge models are simply really good expert tools. Which brings us directly to the next point. Just because a model XYZ cannot one-shot GTA 6 doesn't mean it's trash. Let's be honest, every few months a big player overtakes another, and the improvements are almost always relatively small. So the biggest jumps were GPT 3.5 to GPT 4 and also the introduction of reasoning models with o1. But otherwise the improvements were rather small. But look back 3 years. Back then we had GPT 3.5 and people lost their minds. Retrospectively, these models now seem absolutely dumb. I'll quote Tony Robbins here. People overestimate what they can do in a week, but underestimate what they can do in a year. So if you look at the entire timeline, it is absolutely crazy what these models can do right now. What I'm trying to say is, the next model won't be AGI. And it won't completely change the world overnight. But in 2028, then we probably look back at 2025 and think, wow, the models back then were really primitive. I'm definitely glad to live in this fascinating time and work in this environment professionally. But taking some of the hype out of the equation and grounding things in realism would serve the field very well. Just my 2 cents, see you in the next, bye bye.